if you are not a fan of potty words, today may not be the best show for you to join. I'm going to use one of my favorite terms, and it does include a potty word. So if you do not like potty words, today's not the show for you. And I may say it a couple of times because it's one of my favorite sayings. And if you really know me, you know that I cuss like a sailor in real life. So we are talking about managing tic disorders. So you have a colleague. Oh, then we are best friends. Official Jeanette Scranton. We are best friends. Okay. I have a colleague who we did a podcast interview. You probably go listen to it, but she helps kids get into colleges. She helps them really figure out what they want to do when they grow up. And one of her favorite sayings is, choose your shit sandwich, which has now become one of my favorite sayings because I feel like it is so true in almost everything we do in life. You have to choose your shit sandwich. Well, what does that mean? It means that doesn't matter what you choose, there's going to be struggles along the way and it's going to be hard, but maybe one shit sandwich has a little bit better flavor than the other one. Maybe the hard is different. And so we are going to talk about that today when we talk about managing tic disorders is, what does your shit sandwich look like? How do you decide how you're going to manage your tic disorders? And we're going to look at it from two different perspectives. So now that everybody has a new favorite saying, and I tell my husband this all the time, he's really stressed out at work right now, and I'm like, well, you could choose your shit sandwich. You could drive an hour to work and an hour home every day, and you would be happier in the office, or you could be 1 minute from your office, but your boss might be kind of a jerk. So choose your shit sandwich. Which one do you want? You want to work with a cruddy boss, or do you want to drive 2 hours a day? So we're going to talk about how that looks. So when we talk about managing tic disorders, most of us, our child either has a diagnosis of tic disorder and maybe ADHD and SPD and all the laundry list of symptoms that comes with it, or maybe you're pretty new and you suspect that your child has a tic disorder. So you've become friends with Dr. Google and you're typing in all the things and you're Dr. Googling. So at this point, we have two groups of people. We have people that have that hard diagnosis and people that are like, I think this is what's going on. I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure this is it. So there are, in my mind, two ways that you can manage tic disorders. You have the conventional model, and then you have the natural holistic model. So when we start to look at the conventional model, raise your hand if you have tried the conventional model. Yes, I have tried the conventional model many times, and I have an interesting relationship with the conventional model because there are things that we need and we can use from medicine. You have a heart attack, you break your arm, you need somebody who can specialize in that. But yes, if you have done the conventional model, raise your hand, meaning you've been to doctor after doctor, you've tried medication after medication, and you just kept going on this merry-go-round. So when we look at the conventional model, this is where we're going to break down first, is we go into it, and most of us have been raised with the idea that you go to the doctor, they're going to fix you. They're going to give you a pill, you're going to get better, they are going to fix you. That's really how we go into it. We are watching our children struggle and tic. And well, thanks, Jeanette. And the first instinct for us as parents is, oh my gosh, we have to take them to the doctor. We have to go to the doctor and figure out what is happening, what is going on. And so we go to the doctor, we get a diagnosis. Did they ever run a test? No, they just watched my son. They watched him and were like, pretty sure he has a tic disorder, but he'll probably grow out of it. I'm going to send you to the neurologist just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure this is what it is. So just ignore it. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it because it'll make it worse. Please don't talk about it. So we go home with this diagnosis. We have this kid who has no idea what's going on in their body. He's scared. We're scared. And then we're not supposed to talk about it, which to me is absolutely insane. So when you start to look at the studies and when you start to look at the information, you know, we go to the neurologist. The neurologist, again, observes my son, which I'm going to say for most of you is probably the case. And he goes, you know what? He just needs a good spanking. No, I'm not going to spank my child just because he cannot control his bodily movements. Like, this is insanity. So then our next stop was an allergist. So we go to the allergist, and I'm begging the allergist for food testing. Nope, your son doesn't have those symptoms. His throat's not closing up. His lips aren't swelling. So we won't even bother testing. We're not going to do that. We're not going to test. But instead, I'm going to give you these 6 prescriptions. And I said 6, and he said, yeah, 6 prescriptions. He goes, don't worry. He goes, I have 4 kids, and I would not hesitate to put all my kids on all 6 of these prescriptions at once. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how can all of these things possibly go together? So we're managing with these prescriptions. What we want to talk about is the study on medications for tic disorders. So when you get this offer, hey, we want to offer you some drugs for tic disorders. When you start to dig into it, one of my favorite resources is Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And Cincinnati Children's Hospital has said that medications prescribed for tics will not cure tics, number 1. So we go into it thinking, oh my gosh, we're getting this magical pill. Yes, this magical pill, my son is no longer going to have symptoms. Doesn't cure tics. Those medications do not cure tics. 2, they are often prescribed off-label, meaning it is an FDA-approved drug used for an unapproved use, meaning a lot of times guanfacine. Guanfacine is a blood pressure medication. We have a few others that are prescribed that are seizure medications. So we are then giving our child a blood pressure medication when they have not a single thing wrong with their blood pressure because it might help their tics. So 1, medications prescribed for tics will not cure tics. 2, they are prescribed off-label. 3, this is the one that gets me. This is the one that gets me. Medications prescribed for tics will rarely reduce symptoms more than 50%. So we go into it as parents thinking we're getting this magical pill. My son, my daughter, they're not going to have symptoms anymore. We're going to be amazing. This is going to be fantastic. But these doctors, when you go in and you get these prescriptions, they don't tell you these 3 things. It won't cure tics. They're prescribed off-label. They rarely reduce symptoms more than 50%. So we have then taking these 6 prescriptions, nothing's improving, nothing's getting better. So we go to the next doctor. We go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Ear, nose, and throat doctor goes, oh my gosh, I would never put my kid on 6 prescriptions at once. He has a tic disorder. Just take him off. Those medications are not going to do you any good. But, well, I want to get tested for food sensitivities and food allergies. There's no reason for that. There's no reason. He doesn't need any of that testing. But I want to know what's going on inside his body. Well, we don't need to know that. It's just neurological. It's simply neurological. So we went on this, what I call the merry-go-round of prescription medications and doctor visits. I cannot tell you how much time, money, and energy we wasted in the first couple of years of my son's tic disorder because we were searching down this rabbit hole with the people we trusted the most for my child's health, and we were getting nowhere. We were getting no answers. We were going round and round, trying this prescription, trying that prescription, not knowing and not having an understanding of what's really happening in his body. And it was apparent to me as a mom that what was happening to him was his body's check engine light. Something was happening. Something was going on. Why is this? What is this telling me? What is happening in his body? So there's this way that you can manage your tic disorder. You can do the conventional approach. You can try and manage with the conventional approach. And there's some people who say, yeah, maybe the medication helps a little bit. Most people who come to me have tried the medication and then have said, well, the medication stopped working. Well, of course it stopped working because it didn't get to the root of what was going on. It was there as a Band-Aid. We're just going to put a little Band-Aid over it and maybe it'll make symptoms better for a little while. But eventually we're going to need to give you something stronger. And maybe we're going to have to up this dosage because medications prescribed for tic disorders do not cure tic disorders. So we're going to have to keep putting a Band-Aid on it, right? So we have this conventional way of managing tic disorders, and it's hard. When I talk about choose your shit sandwich, choose your hard, it's hard. It's hard to watch your child struggle. It's hard to go to doctor after doctor after doctor. It's hard to, take all of these medications with these awful side effects. It's hard. We're using this one method to manage. However, I saw the light. I went back to school. I relearned everything I thought I knew about health and wellness. And now it is apparent to me that there is a completely different way to manage a tic disorder. So you have a way to manage it that, yes, it's hard. This way of managing it this way is hard too. It's not easy. It's going to be a lifelong change. It's going to be a lifelong change that gets easier, but you're still going to have to make these changes. So when we look at managing tic disorders naturally, I want the data. I want the science. I want to know what's going on under the hood. This is why we use the functional lab testing. This is why we're looking for a clue in the poo. We're looking for food sensitivities. We're looking at your genetics. We're looking at, is there mold toxicity? Is there heavy metals? Is there environmental toxicity? What are all of these things that are really impacting your body? So we're using this testing. It's hard. Do you know why it's hard? Because we're going to do the testing and then you're going to wait. You're going to wait about 5 weeks before we get results. There is a waiting period. And then Dr. Gibson and her team are going to overwhelm you with a lot of data. Because now we have a ton of data. We've been able to take that data from your test results and connect the dots to what's happening in your child's body. So you can't just look at the paper and be like, this is what's happening. You have to be able to connect the dots to what is going on. Because sometimes we may see things on paper or not see things on paper is usually the case. We don't necessarily see it on paper. Maybe it's there a little bit. And Kirk Sparks can really speak to this, is we really had to dig deep looking at his data, his daughter's data, and then looking at what was going on in her body to really connect the dots. So yes, it's hard. We're going to do some testing. Some of you and your kids may not like to do the dry blood spot finger prick. They may cry. They may throw a fit. It may be hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because they don't like to poke their finger. They will live, I promise. So then we start to overwhelm you with results. But the great thing is we're going to break it down. We're going to give it to you in phases. So your body can really only handle one healing modality or phase at a time. We can go through one protocol at a time. If we put 3 protocols in, you're going to be overloaded. You're going to have a lot of endotoxins. You're going to have a lot of detoxification that maybe your body is not ready to do. So your body can handle one healing modality at a time. And because we are from this conventional model over here, we're over here and we want this magical pill and we want the symptoms to be gone like that. When we start these protocols, yes, it's hard. Maybe we have some healing crisis, some die-off. Maybe things get a little worse before they get better. Why? Because our kids are so sensitive and we start to alter what's going on in their gut. It's going to impact their brain. Those things, those toxins, what their body is experiencing has to go somewhere. We have to get it out of our body through stool, urine, sweat, however we're going to start to detoxify. Through our kidneys, through our liver, we have to detoxify these things. So maybe we have a little bit of a healing crisis. And it's hard. It's hard because you've had your kids struggling over here and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be the magical solution. But it's hard because we have to work through this process. We have to get you to the next step. It's like Candyland. You have to go to the next step. You have to get to that next phase. You have to get to the witch or whatever she is. And then you have to get to King Candy and you have to go through all of these stages. And so I like to say when you're working with us, you have to think of it kind of like a board game. We're going to have to do certain steps and make certain stops along the way to get back on track. And so I tell parents, you have to account for 1 to 2 months per year your child has been sick. So let's say you have been dealing with it for 6 years. We'll just say 6 years. We've been dealing with this for 6 years. We get all the testing, we get all the information. We've been dealing with this for 6 years. It's going to take 1 to 2 months per that 6 years to get back on track. What does that mean? So it's going to take 6 to 12 months of work to really get back on track. And I stress that to parents that we're working with. This is not an overnight process. You are not going to see changes overnight. You may not see changes in 90 days. But I do have a ton of clients who, when we've been working together 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, their child has finally been able to get back on track. Why? Because we have to allow all of that time for their body to get rebalanced. So is it hard? It's hard. You know what else is hard? You're going to make some diet changes. We're going to recommend diet changes. Some of them, I like to say, are not forever. You may be able to add some things back in, but some of them, you may be making a lifetime change. And it may suck, and it may be like, I want to eat a gluten-free pizza for the rest of my life. But if it keeps your symptoms away, and we know that maybe that gluten is one of the drivers for your symptoms, for your particular symptoms, son, right? Yeah. Then we have to make a lifetime change. You know what? It's hard. But these days, you've been doing it for years. We've been doing this for 12 years. Gluten-free, dairy-free. I cook that way. It is second nature. I do not think about it. We know what restaurants we can go to. He can listen to his body. He knows what he should and should not be eating. And it's made the biggest difference. So yes, on this hand, it is managing tic disorders naturally is hard too. It gets easier as the months and the years go by, but it's hard too. So I'm not doing this talk today to talk about you're gonna have a shit sandwich and you have to choose your hard. But what I can tell you from my perspective is we ate this shit sandwich and it did not work for us. This was not my favorite shit sandwich. But when I come over here, I can see the huge changes that he has experienced, and his behavior and his mentality and his moods and all of the things he's experiencing. Yes, as he walks by going like this. And so he knows he can listen to his body. He very much can listen to his body. He came to me yesterday, and which is really, really important for me. I want your kids to be able to listen to their bodies because it's going to make a huge difference throughout their life. So he came to me yesterday and he goes, Mom, I couldn't sleep last night. I felt like my heart was racing. And he goes, I felt really anxious. And I was like, well, what have you eaten? Where have you been? What have you been doing? He's almost 18 years old, so he goes and does his own thing. But we were really able to sit down and analyze, like, what's going on? Like, why are you experiencing this feeling and this anxiety? And we were able to work through it. But because he is so aware of his body, he was able to pick up on it like that. I mean, he picked up on it really, really quickly. Where most people, they can't pick up on that. They don't understand why they're feeling that way or what is going on inside their body. So one of the most important pieces of this sandwich is that we're going to teach our kids to listen to their bodies. Yes, it's hard. Yes, they are going to make lifelong changes. But I think, somebody like, happy birthday, Logan. Somebody like Jeanette can tell you that, you know what? It's hard, but this hard is easier than that hard. It's much easier now than when we first started. And so when we're looking at managing tic disorders, you have to look at there's two ways to do it. You can do the conventional approach, but it may not get to the root. Those medications are not going to cure your tics, and it's going to be hard. Or you can come over here and you can use this natural alternative woo-woo Dr. Gibson approach. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but we're going to walk you through those steps so that it gets way easier, so that it becomes second nature. But part of it is you have to trust the process. And when you come from this conventional approach where everything is a magical pill and we're just going to have no symptoms really, really quickly, which is total BS, it's not the case, we then have to come over here and be like, okay, this is hard. We have to work through it. We have to trust the process, but we're going to get there.